Well, hello to everybody here. It's Teresa Sanderson. Oh my goodness. Very excited to connect with all of you today. We have a wonderful guest with us. His name is Scott Aaron. And Scott is somebody who I've gotten to know very closely in the last few years as a business coach and mentor, and certainly a LinkedIn guru. So, Scott, welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Well, Teresa, it's an honor and a privilege, and you're a friend first, always, and always happy to contribute to whatever community someone has, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I love it. And, right now in the world, and certainly here in the US, nurse entrepreneurship is a big trend. Nurses are starting businesses. They're kind of backing away from the bedside and saying, surely there's something better. Surely there's something I can do for myself. But a lot of nurses I know and have met with over time, they struggle getting out there on social media. And a lot of times they feel like, gosh, I made this post on LinkedIn and nothing happened with it. Nobody saw it. Nobody commented. What's the biggest mistake, that newbies, new entrepreneurs, especially nurse entrepreneurs, are making that keeps them from being seen? And how can they stand out in the crowd without feeling like they're salesy?
I would say that's a normal obstacle that anyone, whether you're a nursing entrepreneur or a general entrepreneur, everyone is looking to overcome that obstacle because sales is an ick word for a lot of people because they don't want to be salesy, they don't want to be spammy.
Yeah.
But then it brings up the question, well, how do I get what I have to offer in front of people without quote unquote selling to my audience? And this has been a conundrum for a lot of people, including myself, when I specifically started to focus on LinkedIn a little over 13 years ago, because for me, I always knew about providing, value, building the know, like, and trust. And I would say now more than ever, just as you said, that there's so many up and coming nursing entrepreneurs
Yeah.
that everyone, you have to put that best foot forward from day one. There's an adage that says you get one opportunity at a great first impression. So you need to think about, what kind of impression do I want my budding audience on LinkedIn or any social media platform for that matter? What impression do I want to leave on them? Do I want to leave the impression of, oh, Scott's just trying to sell me and pitch me on something and try to get me into his program? Or is the impression, wow, he's full of value, whenever he shows up on, XYZ platform? And using LinkedIn as the example, the big shift is, uh, LinkedIn was one of those platforms where people either A, wanted to go get a job, or there were recruiters on there looking for people for, that wanted a job. Or it was just basically a way to just pitch slap people, connect message, connect message, connect message, right? So
Yeah.
there's been a lot of changes on the platform, and now you're seeing so many new and seasoned entrepreneurs, when they're led the right way. And I'm not patting myself on the back, but when people latch on to the strategy that Nancy, my wife, and I teach,
Mhm.
positioning yourself as a value added resource to your network of connections on LinkedIn rather than someone that's just selling to your audience,
Mhm.
you can grow and scale a business that much more efficiently. And namely, the big push right now, and this is the message to anyone that's listening or watching, especially into 2026 and beyond, is your content has to be the reason why people want to come back to hear more from you, about you, and what you offer. So if you're new to the nursing entrepreneur game, or you're seasoned in the nursing entrepreneur game, and
Mhm.
you're not really sinking your teeth into the benefits of LinkedIn, and you're wondering, well, what's the most important thing I should focus on? Yes, there's a lot of things that you can focus on, but making sure that every single piece of your content is full of value, is full of a way to create a meaningful connection and relationship with the reader. But more importantly, it should be positioning you as that go-to person where if there's a need or a want or a desire of someone for themselves personally or professionally, when that need bubbles to the surface, they're not going to think about anyone but you. And what's going to allow that process to take place is positioning yourself through that expert content on the platform, which is the number one way to really best position yourself, whether you're new or
Mhm.
seasoned as a nursing entrepreneur.
I love that. And it resonates with me so much to show up as a value added provider, a value added human, so to speak, on on LinkedIn or any social media, right? Because when we grew our hospice back in the day, I could go around to doctors' offices and hospitals, and it was hard to get a meeting because everybody was like, "What are you selling? You just want us to refer to your hospice." But when I instead came to the table and said, "Hey, I've got this continuing education course that we want to offer free to your nurses here, just so they can learn more about how to use hospice," right? Then all of a sudden, the gatekeeper's holding the door and smiling to let us in behind the desk, right, into that coveted area. So how can nurses show up then, thinking about their businesses and even just who they are as humans? How can they show up with value? What are some examples of that?
So, what we teach and what we always suggest people to do, and just so kind of people know the numbers behind LinkedIn, it is it's the oldest social media platform. The beta version of it was launched in between 2000 and 2001, and then it was fully opened up to the world between 2002 and 2003. So, but even though it's the oldest platform, it's also the smallest. There are about 1.3 billion users, and that's still sounds like a lot of people. But if you compare that to some of the others, it's literally peanuts. But 82% of the people on LinkedIn are in some sort of decision-making role, which tells me 88%, which tells me it's almost a 9-to-1 ratio of a provider like myself, like yourself, like a nursing entrepreneur. That's a 9-to-1 ratio in your favor, meaning for every one of you, there's 9 potential decision makers who need, desire, or want what you have to offer. So it then brings up the question, to your point, well, what do I need to do to make sure that, I'm showing up the right way? And going back to what I said earlier, content is everything on the platform. That is what is going to not only make you stand out, but it's going to allow you to show up the right way. And here's the thing, there's a lot of people that take what I call the easy road on social media. Whereas whatever they've been posting on Facebook and Instagram, they're like, you know what? I'm just going to copy and just paste it and throw it up on LinkedIn
Yeah.
because I post it, right? So it's like they're patting themselves on their back. They made a post on LinkedIn, and then they wonder why it fell flat on its face. No one's engaging, no one's liking, no one's commenting, no one's resharing. And it's because it wasn't catered to that specific audience. And I think this is the big thing. When you are going to use LinkedIn to advance yourself in your business, you have to think about what is your desired end result. Yes, the overarching desired result is to grow your business.
Right.
Underneath that is leaving people better that come into your sphere and making sure that what you're creating and crafting is catered to the people that are in your network. And I think this is the big thing. But Teresa, I'll just get ahead of it. The thing that stresses people out the most when it comes to social media, namely LinkedIn, is content creation. It's
Mhm.
almost like they become a deer in headlights. I don't
Yeah.
know what to say. I don't know how to say it. How long should my post be? How often do I post? What time do I post it? All these questions start to bubble to the surface, right? So here's the thing. All those questions and feelings are valid, but always put yourself in the passenger side perspective, right? So think about, as a nursing entrepreneur,
Mhm.
who are you looking to get in front of, right? Who is that person that decision maker that you want to have see your content. So if you know who that person is, whether it's an ideal client or a business ally, now you know who you should be connecting with on LinkedIn. So that's step one, understanding who needs to be brought into the sales funnel, so to speak, and the funnel of the connections on LinkedIn. And now that you have this budding network growing of potential ideal clients and or business allies, you just have to feed the machine. And the way that you feed the machine is feeding it with content that not only positions you as an expert, but it triggers these people in a good way. Triggering them where it hits them right where you want it to hit them, which is in the heart, where it's like, man, I need to comment, I need to react to this. And I always like to quantify this, and I want to put everyone's minds at ease that T.R. Becker actually said it the best, that every master was once a disaster. So if you're watching this and you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, Teresa, Scott, I've never really posted consistently on LinkedIn, right? Everybody has a day one. Everyone starts in the same place. Teresa had her first post on LinkedIn. I had my first post on LinkedIn. And it's just like content and content creation is just like a muscle. The more often that you do it, the stronger and better it becomes, right? So you don't go to the gym once, work out that one time, and leave the gym looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It just doesn't happen that way. It's about repetition. It's about consistency. It's about the compounded effect. And your LinkedIn content is what's going to open up all the doors. It's going to open up doors for visibility. It's going to open up doors of showcasing your expertise. It's going to open up doors of conversation and relationship building and networking opportunities. It's hard to really articulate to people that LinkedIn content plays a much different role than Instagram stories and Facebook posts and YouTube videos. It's like comparing apples to bowling balls, right? So what people need to understand is that the content that you put out on LinkedIn should leave your audience better, should position you as the expert, is leading with value. It's going to make people think, but more importantly, it's going to make them want to come back for more, because you have to give in order to get. And content is free to share. But if you ever want someone to take out their credit card or debit card and make an investment into you and what you have to offer, you have to give them a reason to pull out that credit card first. And that's why content creation on LinkedIn is such a powerful way to make all of that happen.
Wow. I love all of that, and just putting it into a perspective of how we can do it and why our content matters so much. And from a nursing perspective, I work with nurses who are starting businesses or who have started businesses and have no traction, that kind of thing. And so many of them don't have a system, right, for creating their content. And so they feel like, I post a little bit here, I post a little bit there, kind of whatever I'm thinking about today. And they wonder why they don't have any traction. What would you say about that?
Well, that's called in the moment posting, which is completely fine. In the moment posting is always best for personal social platforms, i.e. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It's kind of sharing things in real time as you're experiencing them, right? They're life moments. LinkedIn is different because it's a business networking platform. You should have a theme, so to speak, for your content on LinkedIn. So the one thing that I just want to put everyone's minds at ease, that the way that you post content on LinkedIn is completely separate from the other platforms. Facebook, they still recommend 3 posts a day. Instagram, they recommend a post a day and adding to your story 3 to 4 times throughout the day. YouTube, 1 long form video to 2 long form videos a week. I really don't know anything about TikTok because I don't have it, but LinkedIn is different. LinkedIn, if you only 1% of the LinkedIn population posts 1 time or more per week. That means 99%
Oh,
are maybe posting once or at all. So as far as the opportunity for visibility and reach, it's never greater than it is right now on LinkedIn. So if you were able to simply just commit to posting 3 times a week on LinkedIn, and I call this the bookend methodology, where you have 2 supporting posts on the outside, and then you have a market research post on the inside, right? So that could be a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday strategy, or a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So you have your bookend, which is your solidifying content. So that could be in the form of a text post up to 3,000 characters, an image text post, so you're putting some personal imagery to it, which is what I do every Tuesday.
mhm.
I post a picture of myself and Nancy, and then some contextual information to go along with it, because we run our companies together. We are the brand together. So it's not just me, it's us.
Yeah.
Um, or I'll just do a text only without an image. The other option is doing a short form video, or meaning Instagram Reel-esque, because LinkedIn has its own video feature where it has its own video timeline or feed where you can do up to 59 seconds. I typically recommend, if someone's going to do video on LinkedIn, just recording yourself on a Zoom for 2 to 4 minutes and just give some value, 2 to 3 tips, and then you could directly upload it from your computer right to LinkedIn itself. Um, that's kind of like my starter recommendation as far as the bookends. So
Mhm.
some people will do a text only post on Monday or Tuesday, or they will do an image text post on Thursday or Friday. So they may not want to mess with video right away. They just want to do what's most familiar to them, which is kind of just writing, longer form content, which is completely fine. And that market research in the middle that I previously discussed is a LinkedIn poll question. People don't understand the value of deep market research, which can be done on LinkedIn. So, prime example of this is there's a feature. So, when you go to create a post on LinkedIn, there's a little plus sign at the bottom, and this is on the desktop and the mobile app. And you'll see a little bar graph. And basically, if you click on it, it gives you a template to create a poll, much like you can on Instagram, Facebook. And it's the same principle. You want to take the temperature of your LinkedIn network. So you always want to ask questions that stop their scroll, A, B, make them think, and C, um, get their perspective and point of view, because we're not mind readers in business. We actually need KPIs, key performance indicators, or market research. We need factual information from the things that we're doing to let us know what's resonating, what's not resonating, but also what people are struggling with that I may be able to help them with. So let me give you an example. So the other day, I posted a LinkedIn poll that said, "What do you feel you need to improve most on LinkedIn this year?"
Mhm.
Um, First option was optimizing my profile. Option was building the right network of connections. Third option was creating content. Fourth option was other, comment below.
Mhm.
And it was very telling, because that was information that not only I wasn't using it for clickbait, I need to know these things because I'm a LinkedIn educator. So I need to make sure that I'm posting content about the things that people actually need help with. So if the top vote was optimizing their LinkedIn profile, you better believe I'm going to start creating content based around that need, that desire, that want, that area of improvement that those people have. Now, why it's also important to ask these poll questions, not only does it allow you to further your content, but it
Mhm.
also gives you a clue into, because you can see who's voting, which connections of yours physically, like, because you can see the people that are voting.
Mhm.
It allows you to pull the warmer bodies out of your network of connections, where you can say, okay, this is someone that I need to start nurturing, maybe in a private message, thanking them for voting in the poll, or seeing if they're open to a networking call off the platform. So if you were to adopt that strategy of just posting 3 times a week on LinkedIn, um, a text post on Monday or Tuesday, a poll question for market research on Wednesday, and then an image text post for personal branding purposes on Thursday or Friday, you're going to put yourself into that 1% category, which is going to give you the ultimate opportunity for visibility, reach, and potential client acquisition.
That is incredible. And I think about that statistic a lot, that it's less than 1% of users who are posting that often. So, and I've noticed it myself, the opportunity for that visibility is enormous. One thing I want to mention, just as an aside to nurses who may be watching, a poll I did, and I think you knew about this one, but it was actually about a year ago. I did a poll just asking nurses the question because I really wanted to get a feel for how does toxic nursing culture really impact nursing retention, right? So I asked the question, have you ever left a nursing position because of toxic nursing culture? Almost 700 responses came in. 86% said, yes, I have. And another 7% said, I haven't yet, but I would if I could. And I thought, wow, that was just massive. But it was also data that I could take, and I used it in presentations. And this is a real-time poll, that I took, and this is how nurses are feeling right now today.
Well, I'll go a step further. Something my dad always told me when I was growing up is that when one person speaks up and says how they feel, there's 9 others that feel the same way. They just haven't said it yet. So you can 9 times any result. So that 700, right, becomes, 6,300 people actually, because there's so many people that are probably suffering in silence or are afraid to maybe put themselves out there like that and experience that. But that is absolutely the case. And that's a great example.
But it's so very powerful. And you're absolutely right that we don't get the same level of interaction with those types of posts on other social media platforms, and it's because the platforms are not designed the same way that LinkedIn is. LinkedIn is more professional, it's business oriented. So we're engaging in that way. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about relationships and how can we develop and nurture, relationships with people, as you mentioned before, to bring those people who are engaging with us a little closer to us. What strategies would you recommend for that?
So there's a bunch. I mean, from a very, I would say, foundational perspective, I kind of mentioned this early in the episode that back in the day, the way that people were building relationships was as soon as someone accepted a connection request from them, they would just send them a message, which is completely fine. I still find that very appropriate, but doing it in a very organic and genuine manner where you're not looking to sell and pitch. You want to do your best to get to know personally as many of your connections as possible. And it's not to sell or to pitch them, but it's just to kind of learn about them and their business. Maybe you have a referral that you can give them and vice versa. So there could be a lot of collaborations in that sense. So making sure that you're doing that. But here's the biggest driver of relationship building as it is in 2026 and moving forward. And I kind of alluded to it earlier, and it's the content that you create. Now, I gave everybody a structure as far as what I would recommend, the 3 posts per week. But let me kind of take it a step further. And I mentioned LinkedIn poll questions are great because as the creator of a LinkedIn poll, you can click on, where it says the number of votes. You can see exactly who has voted. And if it's a first connection of yours, there's a little blue arrow that will appear next to their name where they voted, and you can send them a direct message. And that is where the nurturing can begin, where you can say, hey, Teresa, thanks for voting in my poll on XYZ topic. If I could be of any support or help to you and your business, don't hesitate to reach out. And I would love to learn more about you and your business. Would love to connect, something like that. So you're not pitching and selling, you're opening the door of opportunity for someone to reach back and say, yes, I would love to talk to you too, when you are available. And a client of mine actually used that strategy and closed a $15,000 client that way, just by he was noticing that this person was voting in every single poll, and he
Wow.
finally took the time to reach out. So that's how. So you're always looking for warm touch points. So a warm touch point, number one, they accept your connection request. Two, they start to engage in your content.
Mm.
So if you're getting likes, loves, insightful support, the different reactions you have, that is also a warm touch point where you can reach out to that person. And again, on any one of your posts, you can click on, the engagements, and you can actually click on a person's profile, and I can simply say, hey, Teresa, just wanted to send you a message and say thank you so much for supporting my post from the other day. It means a lot. And if I could be of any help or service to you or your business, or you would love to connect offline, don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great day. So again, you're leading with thanking them first, acknowledging them first, and then backing it up with, like, if you want to open the door to talk, we can. What I have found is launching that kind of multi-prong strategy where you're sending messages to new connections, you're messaging people privately who vote in your polls, you are messaging people who engage, like, love, support your content, but also a LinkedIn newsletter, which is something that you have and I have, is
Yep.
also just, we could do an entire episode just on LinkedIn newsletters, but
Indeed.
I will shortcut it by saying that within LinkedIn, you can create your own, almost like Substack newsletter that is held on the platform through LinkedIn editing, and you actually can build a subscriber base, much like a YouTube channel. And what you can do is, when you launch your newsletter, LinkedIn invites all your first connections to subscribe to it, and every subsequent connection that accepts is also invited. And LinkedIn also notifies people that subscribe when you've released an edition, and also emails them. So they help you gain visibility and growth. But the most powerful aspect of that is that, as the LinkedIn newsletter creator, you have access to see exactly who has subscribed to your LinkedIn newsletter, which means that is another warm touch point. That's how relationships start. So you can go through on a weekly basis all your new subscribers, click on their profile, and send them a nice thank you message. Hey, Teresa, thank you so much for subscribing to my newsletter this past week. Your support means so much. If there's a topic you would like me to cover, don't hesitate to let me know. And if you'd ever like to connect offline to see how we can support each other, just reach on out and we can set something up. So it doesn't have to be weird or icky. It just has to be you being a human connecting with another human being. And those are actual methodologies and strategies that I do for myself, but I also teach in all the programs that we have, including the one that you're a part of.
Yep.
And if people take that forward thinking notion of reaching out and touching, building those relationships, looking for those warm touch points, before you know it, you'll start having calls being booked each and every week, and that law of conversation will start to roll into your favor.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I think the best part is, as I hear you talk about it, these are strategies that I've implemented after working with you guys for the last couple of years, and they work. If you follow the system works. And goodness, so much wisdom you shared today. I want to thank you for joining us for this, Scott. And before we finish, I would love it if you just take a moment and share with our listeners and our viewers where they can find you and connect with you outside of this interview.
Yeah, LinkedIn is obviously the best place to find me. So you can go on LinkedIn and you can just search Scott Aaron Coach. You'll see me pop up right there. I do 2 LinkedIn live trainings every single week. They're completely free, Mondays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. And then I also have a growing LinkedIn newsletter, getting close to 12,000 subscribers. It's called LinkedIn Tips and Updates. I release one new edition every single Friday, so there's always free value there. And you can also visit us at thetimetogrow.com to find out all the programs and courses that we have. We actually have a budding community called the Expert Content Society, and that is for coaches, consultants, and service professionals that are looking to streamline the content creation process using our personalized AI GPT prompts that ask you questions to help you formulate and post really high engaging leadership and thought-provoking content on LinkedIn. And you can find all that information at thetimeToGrow.com.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, thank you again, Scott Aaron, for joining me. It's just a pleasure. It's been a pleasure working with you and getting to know you the last couple of years. Thank you for sharing some time. And to all of our listeners and viewers, this concludes this episode of Dare to Do Nursing Differently. Join us again next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.